I thought my neighbor was just weird. Then I found what he'd hidden in my vent. My name is Emily, and ever since that night, I don't sleep in complete darkness. I want to start from the beginning. Not from the moment I found the camera, but earlier. Because the scariest part isn't what he did. It's how easy it was for me to explain away everything that came before. My name is Emily. I'm 27. I live alone. I work too much, I come home late, I eat badly, I fall asleep to crime documentaries like a hypocrite who believes horror is entertaining but never personal. I've always considered myself careful, but not paranoid. The kind of person who double-checks if she locked the door, then laughs at herself on the way down the stairs. When I moved into that building, it felt like a reasonable choice. Old but solid. 4 floors, cracked stairwell, fading paint the landlord promised to touch up soon. The hallway smelled like dust, metal, and somebody's cat. The rent was cheap enough to make me suspicious, but the neighborhood wasn't terrible. The landlord seemed normal, and I told myself I was lucky to find it. I chose that apartment for one stupid little reason. The bedroom window didn't face anyone else's windows. It overlooked an old, abandoned stadium. Faded bleachers, a dead track, broken lights that glowed weakly at night. Just dark open space and a few sad street lamps. No neighbors staring straight into my room. No one 20 feet away watching me change. I remember looking out that first evening and thinking, good, no one can watch me here. That thought aged badly. The day I moved in, I met him. He was standing in the hallway on the 3rd floor where my apartment was. Not walking by, not fumbling with keys, not taking out the trash, just standing there, leaning one shoulder against the wall opposite my door. Completely still, like he'd been there a while. I was carrying a box that was too heavy, trying not to drop it. I looked up and nearly jumped because I hadn't heard him move or breathe. Hi, I said. He turned his head slowly, like it cost effort. His eyes moved over me in a way that felt more like scanning than looking. You're new, he said. Not a question, just a statement. Yeah, I said. Just moved in. This one's mine. I nodded at the door. He glanced at it, then back at me. Across from me, he said. I'm Connor. On the building list, it's just K. They don't like full names. I didn't get the joke, if it was one. I smiled anyway because that's what you're trained to do. My arms were starting to shake from the box, so I shifted my grip. Without asking, he stepped forward and pushed my door open with 2 fingers. Here, he said. Welcome. It should have felt polite. Instead, something about it felt rehearsed, like he'd been waiting for that exact moment. But it was moving day. There were more boxes, friends waiting in the car, internet installers calling. The moment got buried. Inside, the apartment matched the listing. Small hallway, tiny kitchen, 1 cramped bathroom, 1 main room that would be both bedroom and living room. There was a big window facing the stadium, and up near the ceiling, just above where a bed would obviously go, a square metal air vent. I glanced at it for half a second. Just an old vent in an old building. I didn't know yet that I should have paid more attention. For the first few weeks, I saw Connor constantly. Every morning when I opened my door to go to work, he was already outside his. Sometimes standing still, sometimes pretending to adjust his keys, sometimes just listening to the building like it had something to tell him. Morning, Emily, he'd say. He'd learned my name immediately. Every evening when I came home, he was there again. Sitting on the hallway windowsill, leaning on the railing, or just standing with that same absent pose. The second he heard footsteps on the stairs, his head would turn and his eyes would find me. He never said anything explicitly wrong. He never flirted, never swore, never blocked my way. If I told anyone then that he made me uncomfortable, they would have said, he's just awkward. So that's what I told myself, too. The only thing that really stuck in my mind back then was that his apartment never made any noise. From upstairs, I heard sports games, footsteps, dropped things, arguments. From downstairs, a baby cried at all the worst hours. From the left, someone watched TV too loud. From Connor's place, directly across from mine, nothing. No TV, no music, no talking, no visitors, no clinking dishes, no bathroom fan in the middle of the night, no signs of life, just a quiet, sealed box. Silence is easy to ignore when you're tired, and I was always tired. Then the small things started. One evening, I came home and noticed my bedroom curtains were open about 2 inches. At night, I always close them fully. It's a habit. Lights on inside, dark outside. I don't like feeling exposed. I stood there, looking at that narrow opening. Maybe I opened them earlier. Maybe I forgot. I'd been in a rush that morning. I closed them. A few days later, my towel was hanging on the wrong hook in the bathroom. I always hang my bath towel on the left and my hair towel on the right. It's a stupid automatic system. That evening, the big towel was on the right. I stared at it. Thought, "You're imagining patterns, Emily. You're stressed." Then there was a mug I was sure I'd left in the sink that appeared neatly placed on the counter when I came home. A chair slightly moved. A book placed 1 page behind where I remembered leaving it. Individually, each thing was nothing. Together, they should have screamed at me. But it is incredible how skilled we are at negotiating with ourselves. How far we'll go to keep from believing that someone else has crossed into our private space. So I shrugged it off, again and again. The first real fracture in that denial happened late one Tuesday night. I got home close to midnight. The hallway was quiet, the light on my floor flickering a little. I turned the corner and stopped. Connor was standing directly in front of my door. Not near it, not passing by. Right there. Close enough that his shoulder nearly touched the peephole. He didn't jump like someone caught doing something wrong. He just slowly looked over at me. "Oh," he said. "Hey, I heard something at your door. Thought someone might be trying to mess with your lock." He stepped back 1 step, too calm. I stood there, keys in my hand, trying to decide whether my reaction would be fear or politeness. We are trained, especially as women, to pick politeness. "Thanks," I said. "I'm good." He watched me put the key into the lock, watched the way I turned it. "You should use both bolts," he said quietly. "Not everyone here is careful." I went inside and locked everything I could lock. Only then did my heartbeat catch up. I thought, why were you so close to my lock? Then I told myself to stop overreacting. A few nights later, I woke up to a faint metallic noise. It was gentle, slow, like someone carefully dragging something along metal. Not scraping hard, just touching. I blinked into the dark. The sound wasn't coming from the door. Not from upstairs. It was coming from above my head, from the direction of the vent near the ceiling. I stared up at the black square. Old buildings make sounds, I told myself. Pipes, ducks, mice, whatever. I lay there, barely breathing, until the sound stopped. Eventually, I fell asleep again. The next nights, the feeling got worse. I started waking up with the heavy sense that someone had just been watching me. Not a horror movie cliché, just that primitive animal instinct that the space around you isn't empty. I'd open my eyes. The room would be quiet. The curtains would have a small gap again. That square vent would sit there in the dark, looking harmless. I began closing the curtains more carefully, pressing the fabric tight, checking the lock twice. Then my small black USB drive disappeared. I kept it in a dish on my desk. It had my documents, personal files, scans. One day it was gone. I emptied my bag. I checked the floor, my jacket, drawers, nothing. "Okay," I told myself. "You lost it. Your fault." 2 days later, I came home and it was right there in the dish again. Centered. Perfectly placed. Things do not vanish and reappear neatly, unless someone moves them. That thought slid into my head and sat there like ice. I pushed it away, again, because accepting it meant accepting too much. The night that finally tore through all that denial was strangely quiet. I had fallen asleep around 1. The laptop screen had gone dark. I remember the dull hum of the building, and then the sound of the main door downstairs closing. Footsteps started climbing the stairs, slow, even, deliberate. They reached my floor and stopped. No keys, no voices, no doors. Then above my bed by the vent, I heard that tiny metallic sound again. And then another. And then a voice. "You're asleep, right?" It came soft, slightly muffled, like traveling through metal and empty space. But I recognized it. Connor. Every muscle in my body locked. I lay on my side, facing away from the wall, eyes closed. I didn't move. I don't think I even breathed. Silence stretched. Good, he whispered. Sleep. There was another faint sound at the vent, then footsteps moving away down the hall. A door closing. I stayed frozen until morning light crept in. By then I had two options: believe it was a nightmare, or accept that my neighbor had spoken to me through my vent to check if I was awake. Guess which one was easier? But when I looked up at the vent that morning, two of the screws had little clean scratches. Bare metal where old paint had chipped away. That was the day something in me stopped cooperating. I ordered a small hidden camera that looked like a USB charger. Motion detection, loop recording. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I told myself I'd catch nothing and feel better. I plugged it into the hallway outlet facing my front door and part of my bedroom doorway. It could just barely see the wall with the vent. First night, nothing. Second night, nothing. On the third night, I didn't go home. I stayed over at a friend's place. I joked about old buildings and bad plumbing and creepy vibes, but I didn't tell her about the voice. I just needed to know. In the morning, I went straight home, locked the door behind me, and opened the footage. Most of it was boring. An empty hallway, a neighbor walking by, lights flickering. At 2:42 a.m., the camera detected motion. Connor walked into frame, dark hoodie, gloves, calm face. He walked straight to my door. He took out a key. My lock turned like it was his. He opened my door and stepped inside, closed it quietly behind him. He didn't check, didn't hesitate. He moved like someone at home. He disappeared from part of the frame, but I saw him pass toward the bedroom. A moment later, he was visible just under the vent. He lifted his hand. In it was a small screwdriver. He loosened the screws. Then he pulled out a tiny black object from his pocket. A camera. He pushed it up into the vent, adjusted it, took his time. Then he paused and looked almost directly into the lens of my hidden charger camera. He didn't jump. He didn't rip it out. His expression barely changed. If anything, he looked mildly irritated. Then he turned away, walked to my bedroom window, and pulled my curtain open just a little. Just enough. He went back to the vent, tightened the screws, walked out of my apartment, locked my door behind him, and went into his. No rush, no panic. I watched that sequence over and over until my hands started shaking. I grabbed a screwdriver, dragged a chair over, and unscrewed my vent cover. Behind it, in the dust and cracked plaster, was a small black camera fixed in place, aimed directly down at where my bed was. In that moment, every single small thing that I had explained away lined up with a horrible kind of logic. He had been in my apartment. He had a key. He had installed a camera above my bed. I sat on the floor holding that device and felt my idea of home break. When I could move again, I plugged his camera into my laptop. There were files, some corrupted or black, some short clips of my room at night, grainy footage of me rolling over, sitting up, walking out of the bathroom in a towel. Some files were deleted, not all. He had been watching. I copied everything, saved it everywhere I could, and called the police. Reporting was slow and skeptical until they saw the video of him entering with a key and installing the device. They opened a case and spoke to him. He stood barefoot in his doorway, calm and rehearsed. A misunderstanding, an old key, not his camera. Then he looked at me with nothing like shame, just annoyance, like I'd broken his toy. That same day, I changed the locks and sealed the vent. I began packing. A week later, carrying a box, I saw him again. "Moving out?" he asked. I said nothing. "People imagine a lot when they live alone," he added. "Shadows, noises, cameras." "The man on the video wasn't my imagination," I said. "And he wasn't a shadow." He smiled thinly. "Be careful what you record. Sometimes you see things that weren't meant for you." 2 weeks later, I was gone. New building, new neighbors, a vent I immediately covered with mesh and the thickest grill I could buy. Blackout curtains. Closed. I'm not constantly terrified. I live. But some nights I wake around that same hour and just listen. To the fridge, the pipes, a car outside. And underneath, a memory. The soft scrape of metal and a voice through the wall asking if I'm asleep. This isn't a ghost story. No demon in the vent. Just a man with a key, time, and the confidence I wouldn't trust my own fear. He counted on that. So now I look at my door, my windows, and my vent. Not because there's definitely someone there, but because once I was absolutely